Hello, 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 hello. Well, I've just got done with everything I had to do for the day, which wasn't very much. And I am back. I figured I would hop back on and do a couple of more reviews and things like that, even though I want to play Splinter Cell. I'm going to hold off, do the reviews like I'm supposed to, and probably pick up Splinter Cell. Well, it's probably going to be tomorrow afternoon, because tomorrow morning I have things to do, a meeting prepared, and I'm going to go out with a friend. And I got another friend coming over to do some more work in the afternoon. So yeah, it's probably going to be till late into the evening before I start streaming, because I got things to do, which is another reason why I'm back on right now. Double the uploads, double the content. This stream here will take place of tomorrow. And there you go. I mean, I could have found an amazing concept. I doubt it's here, but I probably could have found an amazing concept, recorded a video, scheduled it for tomorrow, but then I would have to spend like an hour or two doing research, looking up everything, finding all the exact numbers and things, because I am very tedious when it comes to looking up things for an actual video, because, well, I have infinite time. On stream, you gotta kind of, I mean, I don't keep a steady flow, but you do have to keep whatever flow that you have up. You can't spend an hour doing equations and things like that, which I've done in the past on stream. You shouldn't, but you know, I don't follow those rules. Anyway, new chapter idea, the gates painted black. Grim Reaper, the Grim Reaper, joins the mix along with a killer called the Calling. Huh? I thought it was going to be the Grim Reaper, and I was half excited, and then you called it the Calling. Alrighty then. Killer has a longer reach, but no lunge. A killer with no lunge isn't going to get any play, even if they have a longer reach. It's not going to happen, buddy. I'm just going to let you know. Most killers, especially low level, that's all they do are lunge attacks. Back to back to back to back. All lunge all day. They swing and then they jerk their mouse to the side at about medium, and then as they get higher up in the difficulties, then they actually go for hits and fakes and things like that. But beginning in medium, they just hold the lunge button and then they spin their mouse. And they get a lucky hit on you, or they completely whiff and they go off into the sunset. But not having that lunge, a lot of people are definitely not going to be interested in your killer, just off that factor right there. Oh, well, you have increased hit range, yeah, but you don't have that lunge speed. So somebody jumping a pallet or something like that, you're not going to be able to get that 6.5 meters per second dash for the 0.6 sec. Well, it's 0.6 with Michael Myers. It's like 0.5. But with that extra, you know, little bit of a dash to actually go forward to hit that survivor jumping through the window to punish them for medium vaulting, that disappears. Perk-wise, Keen Eye. When a survivor performs rushed actions, all gens, pallets, and vaults are blocked. in a 25-meter radius for 15 seconds, cooldown of 80 seconds. You had me until you threw the word gens in there. Pallets, okay, they get blocked off. Volts, actually, nah, you don't even have me then either. Because, I mean, there's all kinds of other different perks that literally block off gens. There's perks that block off pallets when you hit with a regular attack. And then there's also, like, bamboozle that blocks volts. So, to punish a survivor for doing the only thing they can do to escape you and force them to run into a straight line, it's kind of BS. With bamboozle, you have to hop through the window, which takes a significant amount of time to block the survivor from doing anything, or to block off that window for that survivor. That is the only thing that's blocked, is just the window. They can still run along the tile set, they can, you know, fake back and forth, and they can always drop the pallet. If you want the window block pallet block combination, you need 2 different perks. 1, you have to hop through the window. 2, you have to hit them with a regular attack, which I'm pretty sure that's a hex perk too, so they can just disable that. So that's a wombo combo of 2 things you'd need to do to get all of that together. And then after you down them, if you successfully do it, gens would be blocked by Ghostface's perk. You have taken all of those perks, slammed them together, extended a regular generic 60 cooldown to 80 cooldown, reduced the range to 25 meters, and then blocked it off for 15 seconds. Something like this could be incorporated, but I mean, why should you be able to block off generators for the same amount of time as a ghost face that downs somebody and then picks somebody up? And on top of that, you had to do absolutely nothing to achieve this feat of list of things that are going on. Any survivor that performs a rushed action gets that. It's not even within your terror radius, like if you're chasing him or anything like this. It's any survivor that performs a rushed action. So, I mean, survivors that know you have this perk are literally just going to bait you by keep refreshing that kill cooldown anyway, or that perk cooldown anyway. When they get done working on a generator or something, they're gonna hop it. Or if you're chasing somebody and they know you're in a chase with somebody, they're gonna hop a window or something so that person doesn't get affected by that particular perk. It's very easily counterable once they figure out that you have said perk, and I don't think just leaving it as a regular perk does anything. Like, if you want to buff this one, or balance this, not buff, wrong B word, you definitely want to make this a hex perk for 1. So there's a way to turn off this just ludicrous effect that you're trying to give these survivors. Or, not effects. Jesus Christ. I just spent like a couple hours non-stop talking. And now my words are just all mixed up. You're trying to give all of these negatives to the survivors for doing a regular action. I mean, survivors can't do a lot of actions when they're moving. And you're going to punish them for doing any type of rushed action. Because it doesn't say, you know, specific actions. It's any rushed action. That's lockers, that's volts over windows, volts over pallets, you know, anything that's considered rushed is going to trigger that. So, I mean, it's extremely counterable counterable. And once everybody understands how this perk works, the meta's gonna be just, farthest away from killer, lets go of generator and vaults a window after they finish the generator or something like that. Because, it has an 80-second cooldown. So, in theory, you'll be able to get 1 activation per generator. In theory. Now, we all know at the start, if survivors are gen rushing you, you ain't going to get an activation per generator. But maximum, like all the way drawn out, things are just going super well for you. You're keeping them off gens, things like that, and you're really doing a great job. Maximum use, you're going to get 1 per generator, or a use per generator. That is like the max. You're going to get 5. And like I said, if somebody just vaults a wall or hops into a locker and hops out real quick, who's farthest away from you, you now have the option to keep pursuing the person that you're chasing, or to leave and then go after another person, which makes no sense. So the meta counter for that is just going to leave this perk essentially useless, and it's going to end up being a waste of a perk slot. And even when it does take effect, the only time you should run into survivors doing rushed actions, except for the occasional one that is new to the game and vaults a wall or something just to get somewhere quick, is when you're in chase. If you're in chase with a particular survivor, it doesn't matter if you block gen progress for 25 meters. That's pointless. They're in chase. Pallets and bolts being blocked, that's a huge issue because, well, you're going to be running at 4.6 meters per second. They're going to be running at 4. Only thing they have to rely on now is perks, and, well, Dead by Daylight don't have perks that can sustain you long enough without windows and other things to go off of. Now, 25 meter radius isn't necessarily huge, but if you're in the wrong spot, it can hit 2 different tiles, even 3 in worst case scenarios, depending on where you're standing at when it happens. Or when you vault a pallet or do a rushed action at a locker or something. You can lock up a lot of things, but if you're already in a tile, then it'll generally only affect that tile and anything surrounding it in near vicinity. But then we come down to the main thing of it being like 3 different perks combined, and that's where I'd have to say no. I will probably never stand for a perk that's just straight up more perks added together with tweaked activations and things like that. I'd say 90 out of 100 times I'll probably say no, you need to rework it and look at it again. If you somehow made this unique and maybe put some sort of twist or spin or reworded it to do something else, or restructured it to do something else, possibly. But as it sits now, no. Lost in time. Whenever a chest is open, switch out the item to the lowest rarity, moving the highest rarity item to a different chest. What? Whenever a chest is open, switch out the item to the lowest rarity, moving the highest rarity item to a different chest. Survivors carrying a purple item or a purple and higher add-on for a tool consumes 30% faster. The way you have this structured per sentence, the only thing that'll come out of chest is lower rarity. You'll open a chest, it'll be replaced with lower rarity, it'll go to another chest. You open another chest, it'll go lower rarity, and that particular item will then move again, and it'll move again, and it'll move again, and it'll move again, and it'll move again, till you get to the last chest. So essentially, you have to open up every chest on the map to get this higher rarity item. That makes no sense. Then survivors carrying a purple item or higher add-on for a tool consume 30% faster. I'm gonna assume by tool you don't mean toolbox, you just mean item in general. Very careful on your terminology there. So anything purple or higher gets consumed 30% faster. So that would be the keys, the 2 keys. You have 1 med kit and map. And I can't think off the top of my head any toolboxes that are purple. Well, there probably is one. Like the engineer toolbox, is that purple? The sabotage, or the Alexis mechanical box for sabotages, I think that might be purple. And it'll affect that. Why would I care? Keys have been nerfed. Yeah, I guess it'll affect the flashlights too. But why would I care? All I could do is run Franklin's Demise, and I can stop this left, right, uppercut, square X, you know, super combination of things that you have going on here. Franklin's Demise, it doesn't matter how much they consume it because they drop it, and then it disappears after it's been dropped after a little bit of time. It's the easiest way to do that. That's why Franklin's Demise has kind of kept its place. I don't see the benefit of making somebody consume something faster and then brokenly switching out everything that's of the lowest quality to a chest and then switching the highest quality to another chest. It don't make sense. And I definitely wouldn't replace this over Franklin's Demise or any of the other meta perks that people like to run. Definitely not. Survivors in your radius will hear double the noise directly near them of any action you do. They are in 40 meters of your radius. What? Survivors in your radius will hear double the noise directly near them of any action you do if they are in 40 meters of your radius. Why would survivors want to hear noises of what the killer's actually doing? I don't understand that. Every action that the killer do, they'll be able to hear if they are in 40 meters of you. Because tear radius is 32 meters, which is what got me the 40 meters of your radius. Tear radius is 32 meters. So it would just be within 40 meters of you, not 40 meters of your radius. Survivors will hear double the noise. I don't get that. Double the noise directly near them of any action you do if they are in 40 meters of you. So, I mean, I understand that the killer's gonna make double the noise and survivors are gonna hear it. But why would survivors want to hear every noise that the killer's making? Oh, they just now opened a locker, guys. Okay. Oh, they just reloaded, guys. Okay. Oh, he's putting down a trap, guys. Like, it doesn't tell me where. Yeah, it tells me look out for traps. I mean, you're going up against a trapper. You should already know to look out for traps. I don't understand. Lockers within 45 meters of the original locker you searched open as well, revealing survivors are found inside. 1 for 5 seconds. This is just hacks. This is exactly what this is. This is a hack. I was wondering what this was coming down to. Whoever this person is, hey, Lee Chips or whatever your name is, you're a hacker. These are hack activations. If you ever look at the hacking videos and things like that, the ability to hear more, the ability to open all lockers at once and pick the survivors up. Well, this just says revealing survivors are found, but to be able to open all kinds of lockers at once and pick them up like that, that's all hack activations. Pallets, after being destroyed, will break other pallets if already thrown down within 18 meters. These are hacks. These aren't even, this is not a perk idea. This is literally 3 known hacks that you can buy. Well, part of a hack list that you can buy for money on the for Dead by Daylight. This person's a hacker. This is them literally openly saying, hey, I want my hacks to be made into perks. Like, brah, what the hell? So, if you walk anywhere within 40 meters of any survivor, they can hear double the noise of any action that you do. Okay. Lockers within 45 meters of the locker that you opens as well. Pallets being destroyed breaks all other pallets that are already thrown down within 18 meters. I don't really know of any pallets that are 18 meters with. Yeah, I can't think of. No, I can think of 2 sets of pallets that are within 18 meters of each other. Midwich, that little circly area, the 2 pallets that are sitting there. And then I guess there's another one on the other side of the wall as well that it could probably reach. And then Gideon in front of the basement. There's 2 pallets there. But in the same thing, the actual thing doesn't activate unless both pallets are thrown, so you're not going to really get any value out of that. I mean, if they throw a pallet and then you walk around to the other side and force them to throw the second pallet, you can break both pallets, but at that time, you would have just broke the pallet and then walked around and doubled back to catch the survivor on the other side anyway. So, I mean, I can't really see the power of this particular perk. And like I said, this is based off hack, so immediately it's ejected from list. Power, tend to hurt. I thought that was another perk. I was like, how do you have a perk this long? But no, it's the actual power. I thought I actually already went over the power because, well, perks and powers. Perks and powers. I guess you labeled it right. That's my mistake. Even though the power should be first, because these perks were hit terrible. Power, tend to hurt. Draw your scythe high into the air. After 8 seconds, move 20% slower doing this. Draw your scythe high into the air. And after 8 seconds, draw your scythe high into the air after 8 seconds. Period, comma, whatever. Then you move 20% slower during this. Okay. charge your meter, releasing it will cause the calling to swing forth. Tend the herd can be used on standing pallets to destroy them completely, but doing so causes the calling to get stuck for 15 additional seconds. A stun for 15 seconds to take out a god pallet. I mean, come on, man. At the start of every match, I'm going to run to every god pallet that I know of, and I'm going to cut them. Generally, it's like, what, 3 super good god pallets? Kill Shack included. You'll have, the super long one. There are 2 super long ones, and then Kill Shack. So I'm going to run over here. I'm going to slap this. Well, first I'm going to run Corrupt Intervention to try and block off a little bit and try to extend game. Probably ruin with this, just, to keep gen pressure. I'm going to walk straight over to both god pallets, and then I'm going to walk over to the Kill Shack, and I'm going to bop all those, and now that part of that's used up, because you're not going to want to break any other standing pallets that ain't god pallets. Of course, there's probably going to be add-ons to reduce this particular aspect of 15 additional seconds of being stunned. Also, you have things that, perks that reduce stun time and things like that you would probably run in that last slot. Tend to herd if used on wall or thrown pallet, brings it at 60% speed. 60% speed of the actual attack, or 60% speed of the actual animation to break pallets? Because if it's slower than the animation of breaking pallets, I'm just going to break the pallet regularly, and that it can break pallets doesn't need to be even part of that. Tend the herd on a survivor brings them to a crippled effect for 25 seconds, as well as injuring them into the next state. What is the cripple effect? DBD cripple status effect. Oh, the cripple status effect doesn't exist. Well, dang. What is this cripple effect? Ah, you explain it right there. Alright. Made my joke too soon. Cripple effect for 25 seconds, as well as injuring them the next week. Cripple effect, survivors move 40% slower, grunt 30% louder, granting a bleed out timer of applied amount. So a buffed, hindered, a louder grunt. So I guess that would be like Strider thrown in. And then deep wound status effect. Apparently activates during chases and out. In and out of chases, whatever that means. I guess it's active at all times. I don't know why that's there, but gotcha. Obviously, you're trying to create another different status effect instead of just using the ones that are already available. Choose the ones that are already there, dude. Hindered status effect. That's that 10% slowdown. Because 40% slower is way too slow for the game. For gameplay. You might as well just hold them in place for a specific amount of time. And not only that, you're giving them 25 seconds. And an injured state on top of that, plus the deep wound timer. But 25 seconds at moving at 40% slower speed. So yeah. 50% is 2 meters per second. You can do the math to find 40%, because I'm not. If it helps you out, every 10% is 0.4. But whatever that ends up coming to, you're moving so slow, you're essentially just at walking speed, unable to do anything. Up here. Special ability, Ounce of Death. Ounce of Death is available after hitting survivors with 4-10 the herd. You have 25 seconds to activate it once ready. So it's like a main event activation. It increases your speed by 40%. So not only is the survivor going to get a decreased speed of 40%, when you activate this, you're getting an increased speed of 40%. Keeping your hand out, running into the survivor does a grab animation by neck picking them up, like Michael Myers. Picking up survivors with Ounce of Death allows you to use them to break pallets and breakable walls until into the next state. Forcing a picked up survivor into breaking something injures them and applies the mangled effect for 30 seconds. Ounce of Death lasts 15 seconds of picking someone up before releasing them, stunning you for 3 seconds. If a survivor gets down during this, automatically toss them onto your shoulder. So now you're the Punisher, just picking people up and slamming them through pallets and breakable doors and things like that. Bro. I don't even want to think about this anymore. Just no. There's no point in analyzing something. Your concept is all about death. And the only thing that you do with this death-like ability is you hold your scythe into the air and then you hit somebody with it. After that, it's not even anywhere near the theme death. Nothing of this has to do with death. Any of this. Like, you're so far out of your theme with all of this that I don't even know why you even mentioned the Grim Reaper. Take the Grim Reaper out and just make it something about the calling. Remove any ounce or form of anything of the Grim Reaper. You're not on theme. Your perks are just re-renditions of already previous perks jammed together. Your power, the little bit that I did understand, made absolutely no sense. And they're way too overpowered in some aspects, but then they're super weak in other aspects. No. I'm going to skip this. I've already spent, like half an hour on this. I don't need to go further. Doing light, it's better not be a dying light meme build or I'm gonna lose my goddamn mind. Yep, it's a dying light. And you've rewrote everything. Apparently this Night Hunter moves at 115% speed. It has a 36 meter tear radius and is tall. You're just throwing out your own numbers there, huh? I've already did this. Well, I've already looked at this even before I started doing reviews. It literally tries to take all of the better abilities from the Dying Light game and incorporate them into Dead by Daylight is essentially what they do. I'm not going to go over this because, well, it's a rival game. And for them to try to pull anything from a rival game is going to cost a lot of money. It's not something that you want to get involved with there. It's going to cause a lot of issues. We have a double post with a bunch of links on top of that. I'm going to assume this one's linky and the other one's just a full post. Tell me it's a full post and not just... Nope. It is. How does this get through the mods? The mods have to check this and approve this. When you post a concept like this, they have to check these, or check what's going on, and they have to okay it for it to be posted. I guess maybe it went to two different mods and they both said okay, but neither one of them picked up that there's two posts. It's kind of funny. Yokai. Again, we're making up our own tear radius and movement speeds now. This has to be based off of like spirit or something, but like, just stick to the 4.6. Stop going crazy and doing all of these weird things. Behavior will adjust everything as need be. Power, the other world. When in the other world, you are invisible, lose your tear radius, but cannot see. It's the spirit. It's the spirit, but you have an extra ability to be able to end spirit items. In spirit items, drop pallets will be vaulted when survivor bolts it, and spirit upright pallets were not in the other world gain a secondary power. You can drop the particular pallet and injure a survivor. Generator 15% slower if it's inspirited. Windows, if a survivor vaults it, you're able to walk through the window for 1 second after the survivor vaults it. If you inspirit a locker, two lockers, you create a gateway in which both killers and survivors can go through. Survivors must do a 3-second prompt to travel through it. I like the inspirit addition of this, but why are you using the spirit world to inspirit something? You know, I'm not understanding that. I would get rid of the excess programming and just leave the inspirited items and find a way to do that instead to keep it simple. Then you have talisman. On the map, one item called a talisman will spawn. Survivor can pick up a talisman but cannot drop it once picked up. With a talisman, a survivor can purify objects with it while holding it. All inspirited items are revealed to them. The survivor holding the talisman has their aura revealed to the killer. Of course. The killer can destroy a talisman by finding it on the ground or down on the survivor holding it, which causes it to be temporarily disabled. It's Pyramid's cube, except you have to take the talisman over to something to essentially solve it or disable something. It's the box. It just makes the box usable as opposed to just immediately get rid of everything. Obvious problem, if you pick up the talisman, 1, you can't drop it, 2, your aura is going to be revealed the entire time. But if we go back to here, you can inspirit items with no cooldown, no nothing. You can just go ham and inspirit a lot of items. But the survivor that picks up the talisman that's made for purifying said inspirited items that can just be hit one after another, after another, after another, per definition, gets their aura revealed. What kind of sense does that make? And I know these last couple episodes I'm being rude, but it's starting to get to the point to where people are just spitballing ideas and they're not trying to even write anything to support anything. They're saying, hey, this is that, and then they're not, and then they're just leaving it there. Alright, so my concept is to make a stoplight. The colors are red, yellow, and green. Thank you very much. And then they walk away. People that don't know what a stoplight is, because it's just a concept in their head at this point, are like, there's red, yellow, and green. Okay. What's next? And they're not even going to take the time to explain, you know, what anything means, what anything does, how it looks, etc., etc. And it's like every other concept that I'm clicking on is just lazily wrote. So whatever example they're using or whoever's concept they're looking at is just creating this down spiral of non-creative, just kind of shit posts. It's like a Reddit at this point. It's just shit posts. Definitely not thought through, definitely not thought out. This person wanted the ability to essentially curse different objects in the environment. Okay. There's a lot of ideas based on things that you can control different aspects and set different types of traps off of other objects. There's a lot of concepts that actually do that if you go back a little bit and look for them. There really are. This isn't an original concept like the Inspirited thing, okay. But you need to incorporate it that doesn't involve just going through the spirit world and then tagging things. Make it unique. Flesh it out. Explain it better. Give it a cooldown, things like that, so you're not just walking around machine gunning everything. And a survivor that picks up a talisman getting their ore revealed to you? What are you, nuts? You can inspirit an unlimited amount of things because there's no upper or lower limit. But a survivor that picks up the talisman to try to get rid of some of those now has their ore revealed. That's not balanced at all. Get rid of the ore reveal. You need to define what the talisman, or how long it takes the talisman to do what it needs to do, etc., etc. Now, I know all the information that I'm harping about is being defined afterwards. I mean, I can clearly skim ahead and read it like that. But the problems that I'm pointing out, which, I mean, you know, as I'm speaking these things out, you've probably already read ahead and you're putting the two together. If anything that I just mentioned right now that's not there, then you have something to actually go upon. Purposely ignoring what's down here and not reading anywhere near. I'm reading what everything says, and then I'm giving my opinion on it. Then I'm going to incorporate all of this into this, and then reevaluate my opinion about everything that I'm saying. Oh, excuse me. Now, at base, you have 7 tokens. Nowhere here did it say anything about tokens, correct? Up here, terror radius, you lose terror radius, can't see survivors, scratch marks, etc., etc. It says what everything does. It says what the talisman does. But nowhere here it says 7 tokens. Don't you think you should incorporate this tokens somewhere in here so you can explain things a lot clearer? This needs to be incorporated. At base you have 7 tokens. Up in here. Either it before the inspirited items things come, or up where you get the power and all of that. That needs to be implanted up here, not afterwards. Especially not after the talisman. I don't understand where all of this is anywhere near the talisman. After the inspirited items, all of this needs to come next, and then the talisman should come at the end of all of this. At base, you can inspirit 7 objects at a time. Again, these are the... Okay, fam. These are the things that you need to know earlier so you can put more things together. If not, you're going to read all of this with a question mark above your head and then eventually get down here and be like, oh. And spiriting an item uses one of your tokens. One token takes 15 seconds to charge. So you're looking at a little less than 2 minutes to get all 7 tokens back. When a talisman's destroyed, it takes 30 seconds to respawn. It takes 1.5 seconds to purify an object. Pallet drop miss cooldown is 3 seconds. So if you miss the pallet drop, it resets itself back up to its upright position. Gotcha. But if you hit a survivor with it, it destroys the pallet. This is some voodoo shit. Absolutely positively voodoo. It's also still a half-baked concept, and I really can't give that, check of approval because still of this. I mean, like, I don't understand why you're trying to incorporate the spirit world. You're essentially running around as the spirit, not even with the speed boost, but you're running around like the spirit, except you have no way at all to see where survivors are or perceive where survivors are. So there's nothing. How are you supposed to set up these traps, and different objects and items and things like that to use or see if you can't see the survivors to actually put the things down? I mean, you're going to walk over to a survivor, you're going to go into spirit form, you're going to essentially disappear in front of the survivor. The survivor knows that you can no longer perceive them, and you're probably going to be throwing traps down and things like that. So the survivor's just going to skedaddle and just walk or just run away to a new area while you're setting up your traps and all of that. So the only way you're going to be able to use this is if you set traps in like the main building or something like that, or on the god pallet. You chase the survivor to that area and then you whop them over the head with the pallet, breaking it. Things you don't mention is how long it takes you to do these things and the cooldown. If you do hit a survivor over the head with the pallet and it breaks and all of that, what's your cooldown before you can move again? All of that stuff. It says pallet drop miss cooldown. What's pallet drop hit cooldown? The opposite of these. Every one of these. What is the opposite of this? Perk wise, insatiable. A lot of people, for whatever reason, use insatiable as a perk name. So close yet so far. When a generator is 75%, the generator will regress to previously mentioned percent when not being worked on. This is a shittier ruin. Why would I only let it regress to 75% when not being worked on? Forget that. I can have ruin and I can keep regressing. Insatiable. When a chase is started, gain a 5% movement speed, 45% vaulting speed, loss of red stain for 10 seconds. If the killer doesn't land a successful hit, Break a pallet or wall in those 10 seconds, the killer will suffer from a 5% movement speed decrease and have aura revealed to all survivors for 5 seconds. Do you see where I'm getting at here trying to read this? It's so long and so just slam jam packed full of things that it's going to be a nightmare to balance. No. I think I'm going to have to start tightening up the reins and just skipping perks that are obviously way too long or obviously or different perks skipped together. Instead of just harping over it, giving them ideas on how to rewrite it or all of that, I think I need to just buckle down and start saying no, it's no good, and then moving on to the next perk. Yeah, it's kind of a-holy to me, but I mean, like, I don't have a huge audience, and half of the things that I'm saying aren't actually going to, the actual creators and things like that. If a creator wants me to go in and, actually give them an honest, long review, I have no problem with it, but right now I'm just kind of going through everything and trying to say things out, so, I mean, you don't have to. If this sounds good, I do, or like if this is like, oh man, this is my jam, it actually thinks it sounds good, I don't know what he's talking about, feel free to go to the creation forum and let this guy know that he's doing a good job. I mean, he has 743 posts. Tell him he's doing a good job. The link's in the description. Come in, write your own thing, and contribute to the community. Scourge hook timeout. Upon hooking a survivor, all survivors in the middle of action. Wait, what? Upon hooking a survivor on a scourge hook all survivors in the middle of action. Will block it for 15 seconds and make the oblivious for 30 seconds. What? Upon hooking a survivor on a scourge hook. Oh, all survivors in the middle of an action. That action will be blocked for 15 seconds and they'll get the oblivious status effect. Okay. Only problem I see with it is it might cause glitches. I like the sound of it. I mean, the oblivious, people just throw oblivious at everything, but it is what it is. You don't have much to choose from when it comes to perks for Dead by Daylight and Incorporation. So oblivious is fine here. 30 seconds is a little bit high, but it is what it is. Oblivious doesn't really interrupt gameplay that much. Blocks the action for 15 seconds. It's in the middle of an action. Is where I'm worried about glitches happening. Because actions are, unhooking, things like that. Unhooking, working on generators, opening chests, etc., etc. If you're in the middle of an unhook animation, right in the middle of it, and it blocks it for 15 seconds, not only is that, on the hook time that you're forcing that survivor to deal with, but in the middle of the action is when it blocks it. Like, I foresee a survivor getting stuck in some sort of invisible wall or some sort of loop to where they're just stuck there hanging. Same with opening chests and things like that. I could see it if a survivor tries to attempt an action within the next 30 seconds, getting the action blocked and then the oblivious status effect applying during that remainder of the time. But middle action, it's very, you're asking for glitches. I do like the concept of it though. I'm not even gonna look at perks. Something tells me that's I guess this is a work in progress. So I guess it's going to keep being edited and things like that, which is good. looking at it again and over and over and over and over again, you'll eventually notice more mistakes. Unless you are, if you're convinced that something's perfect, your brain will not take the time to notice mistakes. But if you take the time to actually analyze everything and break things down part for part and view things from different perspectives, you'll find more flaws. This works for well, I don't say just about all situations, for a lot of situations, especially when it comes down to life. If you're in a relationship and things ain't going too smooth for you, or you're in a relationship and you're not entirely sure this is exactly what you want, step back and view things from a different angle. You know, if the relationship that you're in, if you feel, safe, you feel secure, you feel like the world could be against you as long as you're with this person, you can get through everything, and everything's great, flip everything on its head. And then view things from a different perspective to see if they're actually the one you want to stay with. Because, family can essentially make you feel the same exact way, but not necessarily love-wise, Turn it on its head. Could you spend, the next 60 years with this person? Would things get boring doing whatever you do on a daily basis? It's a lot of couples, it's more of a lust thing than it is actual love. You're lusting for each other, the bodies, the souls, the minds, the experiences, things like that. Everything feels like it's all interconnecting, but it's just, your primal instincts taking a hold. And then you're like, oh, this person's the one. And people nowadays, they do stupid things. They get engaged, they get married, and do all kinds of crazy crap within the first 2 weeks to 2 months of knowing somebody. Ask yourself, after you get past this initial beginning relationship phase, where it's just non-stop, you're seeing each other, happy experience, you're having intercourse and doing all kinds of other crap back to back, and you feel in cloud 9, would you stay with this person if all of that stopped? The spark that you think you have, would you stay with this person and try to make things work out if that spark disappeared? Some people can generally say yes, they'll try everything in their power. Other people would say, once the spark's gone, it's gone. And I guarantee you, spending 60 years with somebody, that spark's eventually going to, unfortunately, disappear. You can bullshit other people and say, yeah, we've been married for 60 years and ain't ever had a fight or any of this other things. We're completely happy. You're full of shit. Absolutely full of shit. And why? Because it's human nature to get bored of things that they're with for a long amount of time. You can be married with a significant other for a long amount of time, but at one point in time, you internalize them as being family, as opposed to, a significant other or a lover or, a soulmate or anything like that. You just naturally become family. And I do mean that in a sort of, I guess it'd be considered an incestual way. It is an incest, but it kind of is, because you're no longer loving them from the flame and the soulmate status and the similarities and everything you have together. But now you're loving them because you guys have created a family. You see each other every day, and, same thing as you do with your family you had before you started your own new family. Same thing you do there. It's another family. Except it's wrong to bang your sister, but you're fine in banging your significant other which technically takes the place of being your sister. It's how human beings work. As much as you'd hate to admit it, human beings unfortunately run off of incest. Your significant others that most people have are generally people that are within the same bloodline. They set hard limits in the past to keep people from keeping their bloodline, let's say, pure. Because, back when monarchies and other things of that form and nature were a thing, people would keep the power that they have within the family. So you would continue a pure breed of your bloodline that gets passed down, passed down, passed down. And you would have kings after kings after kings till something happened and they got sent out, died, or didn't have an heir. Then, they would pull somebody else and they would become king. Those traditions lasted for a very long time, and those of you don't know when incest laws take effect, I suggest you look all of that up. It's very recent. Very, very, very recent, where they actually had to start enforcing incest laws and saying, no, you cannot marry or bang your sister. It is against the law. There will be no more monarchies and no more monopolies on power. You will spread that. You can still pork your, your second cousin or something like that. You can still pork them, but anything before that, nah, bruh. It might actually be first cousin. That's something really close, but not that close. It's enough to kind of flush it out a little bit. Like I said, this goes back years and years and years, way, way, way back in the past, and even before that, it was even worse. A civilization of people generally share some sort of bloodline. If you lived in the same area for generations, then the people that are part of the area, especially the ones around you and things like that in the towns that are formed, are probably related to you in blood some way, somehow. Unless they're from out of town or, you live in a big city that's just a cesspool of a whole bunch of different people. You probably are related to the people in your general area, especially if it's a small town or something like that. You're just having different generations making different families and different last names used. Then all of those people have children, and those children go to the same schools. They get together with each other. High school wise, middle, high school wise, things like that, they're having sex and some get pregnant, some don't, etc., etc. They have children. They move out, they have their own lives, and as many times as the town repopulates itself, you're gonna eventually become related to everybody. So, just something to check out. And a lot of people don't realize, if you look at the facial structures, and hair color, eye color, nose shape, where the eyebrows are like, things like that, most couples you can tell are related bloodline wise, because they all will have the same features. And it's completely normal for human beings to seek somebody that's like them. You find somebody that has, similar interests and things like that. But in doing that, you're still seeking out somebody that's part of a particular bloodline. This is sort of what Sigmund Freud was kind of trying to get after when he says, how human beings and stuff are, it's all part of the DNA, you're born like this, etc., etc. I'm not going to go real deep into the Sigmund Freud things, because it can get very sexual depending on your take on things, and it can get very basic, very Return the Monkey like, depending on your take in Sigmund Freud and how you Sigmund Freud, not Floyd, Freud, and how you internalize things. Then you have the neo-Freudians that are saying you are the product of your environment versus you're the product of society versus you're the product of how your parents raised you. I mean, there's different theories that are thrown out there. Sigmund Freud says you are a animal, essentially. Everything that you do is already programmed into your DNA by birth. You're not making essentially your own decisions. You're just going off of that code. Like a computer. Somebody wrote a code for you. You were there to fulfill that code. But I'm not going to go any farther than that because it gets into instincts and a whole bunch of other things that I don't want to stop and explain. But, yeah. I just don't understand how more people don't see it. I guess they just refuse to see it. Their ego doesn't allow them to see that. Because you can get on a whole bunch of other things, YouTube, and see different couples. You can see, your friends' couples on Facebook, Instagram, things like that. And if you just look and just note the different, or the similarities of facial structure, eye color, hair color, the way their hairlines and all of that are sitting, etc., etc. And the more things, the ear shape and how you look, and the more you look, the more you'll say, holy shit, they're exactly alike. They look exactly alike. And it's like, yeah, because they both got together, probably in the same area that they grew up in. And, yeah. It's incest involved, some way, some form. Or some shape or some form. It's incest. It might not be direct line incest, but it's still legalized incest. I know if anybody hears this, they're going to immediately go ahead, we'll search this up, look at Facebook, compare somebody's relationship, and they're going to be like, either, bro, what the fuck, he's actually right, or you're just going to pull up two random people that literally didn't meet in the same area, and you're going to be like, man, he's full of shit. I assure you I'm not. Find any couple that look similar, run it through any type of facial recognition software or anything that spots similarities, and you're going to find that, the similarities match. They're consistent in a lot of places. Sometimes you'll see somebody out, and they'll be dating and all that, and they won't be necessarily hands-on dating. They'll be keeping their distance. And people will come up and be like, hey, your sister's pretty, or something like that. And they'll give a compliment to their significant other, calling them a sibling, because they look so much alike. It happens, people. You want to know why you are blind to seeing that? Because society versus your ego. If you let that aspect go, that immediately denied what I said from the start, and just said, nope, ain't no way, it's full of shit, doesn't mean anything. If you let that aspect go and just open your mind to suggestion, just open your mind to actually look at things logically and see, then you'll find a definite answer whether or not I am right and or wrong. I already know the answer. Like I said, I've looked at the research, I've done the research myself, and I've looked when I've been out at different couples and things like that. Not in like a creeper way, but yeah. It's an unfortunate truth, and most people don't see the similarities between. They look at each other and they're like, no, we don't look the same. Because everybody has a self-image that they think they look like. And then there's actuality, what you actually look like. I guarantee you, most people don't know exactly what they look like unless they have high confidence and they've accepted the flaws and insecurities and everything else about themselves. It's very rare that that happens. Most people's thoughts on what they look like versus what they actually look like, two separate things. I'm not saying like if you show them a picture of themselves, they're not going to recognize themselves. Of course they're going to. They've been in that body and they've taken lots of pictures and things like that. But on the same note, you're not going to know what certain parts of your body look like because you can't see them. So unless you're a weirdo and you take pictures of every part of your body, things like that, then you're not going to have a full concept anyway. Which already proves that theory anyway. And yes, I call it a theory, even though that's a fact, what I just said. It's still a theory. Has it been scientifically proven? I don't think it ever can be scientifically proven. But I mean, some things, you just gotta kind of lean into because they make sense. You might not be able to scientifically prove it, but there is some truth there. I ain't saying it's a 100% truth, but there is some truth and some merit there. Which is why it's a theory in the first place. Theories have to be approved. Because you think of something, you have an idea, you get all your crap together, or you have an idea. You go to, let's say, a board of scientists, just to make things simple. You say, hey, something, 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 something. They say, okay, what's your proof? You then go out with, funding if you're part of a group, or you go out and you find evidence for the statement that you made. If you can find, actual evidence and conduct a theory based off of that evidence, you then take that theory and pitch it back to the science board. They either accept it because it's actually a plausible theory, or they reject it because they find holes or something, or it's not completely flushed out. And from that part, if it becomes a theory, then you have other scientists and things like that will adapt to this particular theory, and then the pursuit of knowledge starts. Once the theory gets, concluded, like the Pythagorean theory, things like that. That's how theories become theories. They're not just somebody that's like, oh, well, I have a theory that this, and then people are like, okay, well, this is this guy's theory, and then it goes into the science books. Like, no, that shit has to be approved, and has to have proof associated, or proof and evidence associated, to make your statement to be possibly true. It doesn't have to prove that it's true 100%, but it has to have the possibility of your theory being true to make it a theory. It's very complicated making things into theories. It's like I said, if I say 2 plus 2 is 4, and I can, pick up things and show you physically, I can write down work and do that, etc., etc. It becomes, the 2 plus 2 theory. 2 plus 2 equals 4. There's my theory, here's my work. Everybody looks at it and they say, yeah, it looks good, it might be true, so we'll turn that into a theory for now. And then, after extensive research and things like that, and somebody will hopefully eventually prove that correct, it then becomes an actual thing. Legitimate, I won't say without a benefit of a doubt, but it becomes legitimate and it becomes accepted by the scientific community, which then goes in the books and things like that, that hey, 2 plus 2 equals 4. Even though it's math, not science, I just use that as an easy example. Very interesting how the world works. It's also very interesting about things that happen that you don't really think about. I'm not going to delve deep into that because that becomes a very, very dark, very quickly subject. I've tried to pitch this in a couple of classes every once in a while, but everybody generally turns it dark. So I'm not going to pitch this, but essentially what I'm saying about that is things that you generally think that happen, instantaneously. For example, if a guy falls off of a roof that's 40 feet in the air and hits the ground, most people assume that he died on impact. In actuality, you just ain't thought the situation through enough. Which I guess I'm starting it off dark because I always know it goes dark. That's not my classic example, but I know if I use my classic example where it's going to end. So I'm just going to start off dark. People assume he dies on impact. Nobody ever well, I mean, people do eventually, like the doctors and the autopsy and things like that, find out that he didn't die on impact. He actually fell, was in most excruciating pain, broke an insurmountable amount of his body, and suffered for about 20 minutes before the guy actually died. But nobody thinks about that or anything like that. They just assume, watching the video or watching it happen, oh, he died on impact. And then you go to the next video. So keep in mind that things are not always what they seem. They can be better or worse. The same guy falling, well, not the same guy, but another guy falling 40 feet could have died on impact. Another guy falling 40 feet could have been dead before he even fell. Maybe his heart just exploded or something like that, and he was dead before he even fell. So he fell, hit the ground, he never felt anything. As peaceful as he could go in that situation. Or the guy that's falling has a heart attack and dies as he's falling, hits the ground and doesn't feel anything. Or you have the shuttle crew of the Challenger, apparently, who actually survived most of the explosion and then died, suffering afterwards. But you know what? I think I'm going to leave the stream there. A little bit of a dark and dreary type in as opposed to the usual. Just to toss things up a little bit. When you're feeling dark, everything seems to not be going your way and things are just driving you crazy because nothing makes sense anymore. The only thing you need to worry about is supplementing your lifestyle. It's the only thing that matters. Nobody will help you. Sometimes you gotta help yourself. If everybody wants to help you, still, sometimes you gotta stop and help yourself. You gotta get the rock going. People can motivate you to get to the rock, but only you can start that rock rolling. If you ain't supplementing your lifestyle, you're sitting there doing nothing with it. Anytime you're sitting there doing nothing, problems will arise, because contentment doesn't last for long. So, sometimes you gotta fight yourself, sometimes you gotta fight other people, Sometimes you don't need to do anything. But even in those times where you're not doing anything, I still recommend you try to find a way to supplement your lifestyle. Every moment of every day. If you ain't done it yet, I'm going to tell you this every day. Sometimes multiple times a day. But beyond that, I am QTASTIC. And I am starting to get extremely tired. I got a fairly long day ahead of me tomorrow. So supplement your lifestyle, and I'm outie.